One of the things that sets me apart from my so-called fellow atheists, and I say so-called because just because you're an atheist doesn't mean you have anything in common with somebody else. It's like when you like a film or a video game or you like playing a particular sport. Does that mean all of a sudden that you have a lot in common with that person? No. So fellow atheists in air quotes. But one of the things I do not share with my fellow atheists is what is oftentimes a kind of very blurry border between atheism and antitheism. I am by no means an anti-theist. And more importantly, I've come to the conclusion after many years, and I've changed my mind on a number of issues over the years and decades, that in much the same way Nietzsche lamented the death of God, and this is nothing new under the sun, I think on balance, the destruction of religion as a pillar of society has been a bad thing. And I think on balance, we've lost something that has been so useful and even necessary in some cases, that the downsides have by far outweighed the upsides. Now, I know some atheists believe this, probably those on the right, and I'm not right, left, or pink or polka dot or anything, but in terms of, say, conventional atheism, left-wing atheism, very few people would endorse this view, for obvious reasons. Because, as you know, I've probably told you this many times, I do not have a religious bone in my body. When I think of my parents, extended family, no one has a religious bone in their body. This going back to the 19th century. I heard tales of ancestors who were just pretending to believe as well. So it seems to me that there's a large genetic component here. And there is, of course. Religion is, as all things are, to some degree heritable. And I held a different view of this even 15 years ago. And my views have definitely evolved. And I've talked a little bit about this in a video called Use Your Delusion. But on balance, especially at the individual level, when you see the powerful work that religion does for people, not just in the positive, we do have to make certain concessions. It's not always good. The wrong combination of religion and the wrong individual can lead to very bad results. I had a friend who slew himself, and part of his long-standing condition was this belief that he would end up in hell and burn in hellfire, and his renunciation of the Christian God never really sat well with him, and he couldn't tell his parents or his siblings, of which he had 4, and so he had to live with this deception. I think this was a contributing factor, among many others, that led to his untimely demise in April of 2017, I still remember. That said, there are plenty of secular ideologies that produce a lot of bad stuff too. I'm not turning a blind eye to any of this. So why am I saying that religion is possibly even necessary en masse, on balance, even if I myself don't believe? I don't think any of the metaphysical propositions of Christianity are true, and I'm not going to engage in a discussion about them, but I just don't think they're true. Or for that matter, most of the metaphysical propositions of a lot of religions. The key turning point that made me realize there's something missing here is that for the longest period of time, I assigned value to truth, sort of factual truth, above all else. I thought if it's true, it's good. If it's not true, well, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but the point is it's important to just stick to the facts. Now, a few years back, the illustrious Sam Harris battled it out with the illustrious Jordan Peterson about this, and Sam Harris is one of these stick-to-the-truth facts kind of guys, and Jordan Peterson is all about metaphorical truth. But I want you to pay attention here to truth. Both guys are claiming to be talking about the truth. What I'm about to say is going to be shocking because no one publicly wants to say this, but I've come to believe that truth is contextual, as in the value of truth is contextual and ultimately based on its utility. So to illustrate this point, let's talk about several examples of what needs to factually be true in order for something to be good. Well, if you have a cardiac surgeon, a trained professional, and he says, we're going to operate on your heart, you need a heart transplant, and in his own worldview, the heart is in fact the liver, and he botches it, that's a problem. You want him to be factually, truthfully in line with the nature of his craft, i.e. the heart is a muscle in the chest. He needs to do the job that he set out to. The same is true of a pilot flying a plane. You want to make sure that he has his A game and he's sticking to the facts. And even something as mundane as a plumbing problem. So when it comes to the functionality of mechanical stuff, you really need to stick to the truth. and this is where my religious support comes from, I don't think it matters as much. In recent weeks, I had to note a guy who appeared on Soft White Underbelly. I don't know if you know the channel. This cool guy does these interviews with everyone you can imagine, but often the lowest of the low of society. Pimps, prostitutes, drug dealers, criminals, victims of different types of abuse. But not too long ago, he did an interview with a cop who was falsely accused of drug trafficking, put in jail multiple times, forced into solitary confinement for something like 5 months. Horrible, horrible things. And I mention this because this guy is a man of faith. He believes in God. And Mark, the guy who runs the channel, asked him the question, how do you still have faith in humanity after all you've been through? And he says, well, God did this and God did that, and he sent me these people that helped me, and da-da-da, and all these people show me that they're good people still, and da-da. But it's God. He invokes God constantly. God showing him the way. God doing this, God doing that. Now, obviously, any atheist can point out that he thanks God for saving him in this horrible situation, but never questions as to why he got put in the situation, presumably if God's omnipotent. The problem of evil has never been sufficiently solved, and no theodicy has ever done a good job of it, at least convincingly to most people, outside of extreme Christian doctrine. But the question is, does it really matter to this guy who is falsely accused of trafficking in narcotics, a standout police officer? Does it really matter that what he believes probably isn't true? Because it got him through jail. It got him through his life. It helped him survive and learn. No, I've really come to believe that truth is contextual. There's certain mechanical matters where the truth needs to line up, and other matters where it really doesn't. And this despite what some atheists and people, particularly on the left, might claim, that there just needs to be this universal devotion to factuality. Well, I don't believe in that, and this video is kind of the culmination of that. Now, obviously, there's a way you can interpret this as sort of insulting, because every, say, believing Christian believes they believe the truth. They're not saying, well, it's probably not true, but it's really useful to me. Because unlike working out or going for a jog or eating the right food, you can't sort of force yourself in any capacity to believe. You either do or you don't. It's pretty clear cut. I have never believed, and I probably never will. I see no evidence for it. I don't feel it. But nonetheless, I'm supportive of it. I think that the reservoir of strength, resolve, and energy that can come from true belief, true belief, whether it's fanatical or otherwise, is astonishing. And when I look at the world, all the people, myself included, who are in difficult situations, sometimes dire situations, and there is no pool of strength to draw upon, it's just them and a world that doesn't give a rat's buttocks about them. What do they have? Well, the answer to that is despair. True faith or belief can circumvent that. It can give you a reservoir of strength to get through issues, believing that things will ultimately be okay, or believing that someone is watching over you. The unbelievers, we don't have that. It's just a dog-eat-dog world, there's nothing to it, and life sucks, and then you croak. And yes, there's some arguments that allegedly counter this. You'll hear this from Mr. Sam Harris, the illustrious one himself. But again, all the people who bring up these arguments are the people who are inundated in luxury beliefs. Sam Harris is a multimillionaire. He's a rich guy. He's doing fine. He wasn't put in jail for years on false charges. And even given that, not every wealthy person is doing well just because they have money. So we really, really collectively, as a civilization, dropped the ball when we decided to say F you to religion, in particular Christianity. Again, I don't think it's true, but man, it's useful, and man, is it helpful in some cases. And the conundrum, as I said, is you can't force belief. You either believe or you don't. You can kind of force yourself to take a jog, or go to the gym, or not eat that piece of chocolate cake. You can't just say, I believe. And I think that's the critical difference. Even if you're a right-winger going to church because you think the routine is good, but you don't believe, that is not going to give you the type of quote-unquote salvation you need. It's not going to give you the religious conviction, the strength to get through life when the going gets tough. Because it is a barren world out there without belief in God. And even then, I've noticed with true believers, they sometimes falter, and their faith is not sufficient to sustain them. But on balance, zero religious faith is insufficient to sustain pretty much anything or anyone. So better to take the chance and believe, if you are capable of believing, even if you falter in your faith, than to not believe at all. Truth is contextual, and it doesn't always matter. Anyways, as always, thank you for tuning in. Special thanks to my patrons. You guys are the best. You keep the channel going. Special thanks to my donors on PayPal. You guys are just as important as well. And if you can engage in the usual YouTube jazz, like the video, subscribe, comment, share, be much appreciated. And until the next time, if I'm still alive, I'll check you out then. May the gods watch over you. Bye-bye for now. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.